Hello and welcome back. I'm Joseph Hoffman, and today we'll be moving on to the second movement of the Clementi Sonatina we've been learning. Remember, each movement can feel like its very own piece with its own mood, tempo indication, and key. This will be like reading book 2 in a 3-part book trilogy. Let's get started by checking out the score. Here's our score for the second movement. Let's check out our tempo indication. It's andante. Do you remember what andante means? Andante is our relaxed, medium slow, peaceful tempo. Remember, our first movement was allegro, and that's almost always what you see for the first movement. In general, we see fast, slow for the second movement, then fast again for the third movement. So an andante is what we would expect. We have treble and bass clef as expected. What's our time signature? 3/4, 3 beats in every measure with a quarter note equaling 1 beat. And I saved our key signature for last because we want to figure out what key we're in. Remember, every movement is like its own book in the trilogy. So just because we're in the key of C in movement 1, in movement 2, we could be in a completely different key. We have 1 flat. That's an important clue. Now we also need to check the last note or the last chord of the song or piece for our next clue. So here's the end of the second movement. Can you tell me the name of the last note of the right hand? We're in treble staff, so that's an F. And what's the last chord you see here? This is an arpeggio. Pause if you want to figure it out on your own. Otherwise, that is an F major arpeggio. So we ended on an F with an F major arpeggio. We have 1 flat. What key are we in? We're in the key of F major. Remember, with 1 flat, we could have been in the key of D minor. D minor and F major are relatives, so they use the same key signature. And that's why it's important to check the last note. And that, combined with the key signature, will be a sure way to know what key we're in. Now, any other new symbols that you see today? You might notice this new term, dolce. Maybe we've seen dolce before, I can't remember. Dolce is an Italian word that means sweetly. So anytime you see dolce, you're going to play the music very sweetly, tenderly, like a lullaby. You know what legato means. Going to play smoothly. Here's another new one. This fancy cursive TR. It's kind of cursive. It's definitely loopy. Whenever you see that TR in music written like that over a note, that means trill. A trill is when you take 2 notes and play them back and forth quickly. This is a trill. So when you see TR over a note, actually what you're going to do is start on the note above the note that you see. So this note is what? We're in treble staff, so that's a G. We're going to actually start on an A and go back and forth, A, G, back and forth, A, G, and that's a trill. And then this is called the exit from our trill. These 2 little teeny notes tells how we're going to get out of the trill, and there, if you look closely, you'll see it's an F, G. So, musicians like to save time, and so instead of writing out A, G, F, G, they just wrote trill, which tells you, okay, this G, instead of just playing that G, I'm going to trill the G, which means actually play the note above G, A, G, F, G. And then at full speed it will be, doesn't that sound pretty? And that's called a trill. So we're getting pretty fancy now. We'll work more on that in a minute. The other new symbol that we might not have had before is this forzato. A forzato means to play this note extra loud, just that one note with extra strength. It's essentially the same thing as an accent. Remember, you can write an accent as a little alligator mouth right over a note head or under a note head. Really means the same thing as an accent. Play extra strong on that note. Don't confuse an accent with a decrescendo. A decrescendo will extend more than one note. An accent only fits over a single note. Play extra loud. A decrescendo means something totally different. It means gradually gets softer. I know they look similar, but totally different meanings. What's that you say? Some symbol I've been missing? Perhaps you noticed this most interesting symbol of all, this 3 with this bracket over these eighth notes. What's this? This is a new kind of rhythm called a triplet. A triplet is when you take eighth notes and you squeeze 3 of them into one beat. You know that generally you can only fit 2 eighth notes into one beat. But with triplets, you make them go a little bit faster so you can fit 3 of them in a beat. So before we would count eighth notes 1 and 2 and 3 and now we count them 1 and 2 and 3 and so you can hear they have to go a little bit faster. 1 and 2 and So that's going to help the music sound like it's flowing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Can you count that with me while I play? Go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Isn't that beautiful? And that's the sound of triplets. Ya da 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 da. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now, music printers are always looking for ways to save ink, save paper, right? That's why we have a repeat sign, so they don't have to write out all the notes again. They just say, repeat. Well, with triplets, sometimes music printers get a little lazy and they say, you get the idea. So you notice here in the triplets, they completely left out these 3 with the brackets. So you would look at that and think, wait a minute, these are 2 eighth notes, so that's a beat. Here's 2 eighth notes, so that's a beat. But no, even though it doesn't have the bracket, you can assume that they're triplets still because they're in groups of 3 like this. Okay? So normally the rule is you have to show this bracket for at least a few triplets, and then once you get the idea, you just assume that these continue as triplets. Otherwise, there's no way you could fit 9 of these eighth notes into one measure. And that's another clue that you know they have to be triplets. And you can see in this movement, all the eighth notes are triplets. They're always in these groups of 3. So that feel will go throughout this movement. Okay, last of all, it's time to analyze some chords and intervals. So I'm going to draw some boxes. Now, each of these boxes has a group of 3 or more notes that we can analyze as a chord. So I'd like you to pause the video and try and figure out what chord is inside each box. If I connected 2 notes with a little curved line like this, I want you to figure out the interval that is represented by those 2 notes. Pause the video, figure out the intervals and chords, then press play, and we'll look at them together. Okay, what'd you get for this box? We have a C, an F, an A, another C, and then this lower F. So what chord does that make? Well, we can leave off this F because it's just a repeat of this F. We see that's an F major chord. That's very useful to know when we're learning this. Otherwise, it kind of looks like random notes going up and down. But once you know, oh my goodness, that's just an F. It's just the notes of the F major chord. We'll be able to learn this a lot faster. And that's the key we're in, so we could call that a one chord or tonic. What did you discover in this box? Once again, we have F, A, C, and then a high F. It's once again our F chord or tonic, one chord. And what did you get here? Looks very similar to this, but this time we have an F, a B, which because of our key signature, I hope you remembered that that's a B flat, then a D, and an F. Now remember, when you have a fourth in a chord, that tells us we have an inversion going on. So I'm going to leave off this F this time. And now here I can see I'm in root position. That tells me I've got a B flat major chord, which in the key of F is what? With Roman numerals, 1, 2, 3, 4. B flat is my 4 chord. Let me put that under here. IV is Roman numeral for 4. And the 4 chord has that beautiful sound, I think. Okay, so that's what is happening there. What chord did you get here? We have a C, an E, and a G. Is this root position? No. I know that because I see this fourth and a third. A third and a fourth is an inversion. So how do we get it to root? Well, the root is usually the top note of your fourth. I'm going to test that by taking this C, which is the top note of my fourth, put at the bottom, aha, it's a C major chord. And what is C major in the key of F? Well, in F, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C is the fifth note of the scale, so that's my 5 chord. Okay, then what chord here? Ah, that's a C, F, A. That's another F chord, which is our 1 chord again. You'll notice in music, we get a lot of 1, 5, and 4 chords. Those are our 3 most common chords in music. What interval did you get here? A D and an F. It's a skip apart, or the technical term in interval would be a third. So I'll write a 3 there. Here's a chord, an A, an F on top, A, F, D. Is this root position? Since we have a fourth and a third, that tells us it's not root position. So to find the root, you look for the fourth and look for the top note of the fourth. That will generally be the root. We'll test that by moving this A up to the top. And now, aha, we see that we have what? It's a D minor chord, which is what in the key of F? Let's see here. In F major, F is the 1 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. D minor is the 6th chord, and it's minor, so I'll do that in lowercase Roman numerals. So we have the 6th chord there, and then what interval do we have here? We have a 6th, we have another 6th, we have another 6th, and another 6th. Again, also very useful to notice for learning this, to see that those are all 6ths. That's hard to say, 6ths. Now, all of this analysis is a waste of time if you don't use this now to help us learn it faster. As we're playing these notes, you're going to see, oh, that's a C major first inversion chord. So you're not just thinking of a bunch of random notes, you're thinking of patterns and chords. Then we'll be able to learn this a lot faster. You'll memorize it faster too. Now let's try to play it. Now let's look at these first 3 measures. Can you find your hand position? Look at the first note and finger number and place your hand on your piano in the correct position. You should have taken your finger 2 and seen that we're on a treble C. Here's my middle C, so finger 2 is on treble C. And now, remember our analysis as we're learning this. We know that these first 5 notes are just the notes of an F major chord. So kind of use that as a reference. And let's also watch our rhythms. We have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And let's stop there. We're going to save the trill for right now. I'd like you to pause the video and count out loud. Remember, we are at an andante tempo. And so it's not a fast beat. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It's a very relaxed, medium, slow speed. Follow not just the notes, but the correct fingering as well. Get those first 5 notes comfortable in your hand, then press play to go on. Good, so you should have played 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And then we have this trill. So remember, a trill usually starts on the note above the note that you see. And since we see a G, we're actually going to start on A and play back and forth between A and G. A, G, and then we exit the trill with this F, G. So we're going to play 6 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's try that. Say with me, A, G, F, G. Now you try. Again, we have da, 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 da. A, G, F, G. Now you try again. Now let's add one more note. Ba, da, 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 da. So now we're ending on the first note of measure 4. Here's the trill. Then we exit the trill and go on to measure 4. Now you try. Now you'll notice all of these notes, starting from the first note to this first note of measure 4, are connected with this long phrase mark. That means we're going to connect all of those notes beautifully. I want you to really listen as you play this piece, that no notes are like jumping out suddenly, like you don't want to like wake up the baby by jumping on it. This is like a lullaby. It should sound beautiful. So listen to each note and it should just sing out beautifully. And the last note of the phrase is especially important to play beautifully. It's the ending, so it needs to have a gentle, beautiful sound. I like to think of the last note of a phrase kind of like if you're getting a soft serve ice cream cone. It's like that beautiful little curly tip at the top. You want it to be delicate and soft. You don't want someone to be like, "Here's your ice cream, kid." You don't want to hammer the last note of the phrase. You want it to be gentle and beautiful. So now, I'd like you to pause the video and work on this entire first phrase and see how beautifully you can play from note to note. Listen to the sound. And make sure you play that last note beautiful, like the little curly cue of the soft serve ice cream cone tip. Every note is beautiful, then press play to go on. Now, after we finish our trill, then we get what? This F major arpeggio. Here's one reason we practice arpeggios, so you're ready for moments just like this. You're used to that fingering. That's our standard F major arpeggio fingering. 1, 2, 3, 5, 5, 5. And then you can use a finger 3 on that D. Now, when you have these repeating notes with your finger 5, do not karate chop those notes and play them ugly. It's got to be played beautifully. Okay, hear that sound? It's also tricky to not make repeating notes. You don't want those repeating notes to sound staccato, so linger on them as long as you can before you repeat. Pause the video and work on those 7 notes there in measure 4 and then the first note of measure 5, and work on a beautiful legato sound, then press play to go on. Now in measure 5, we have something similar, but this time we're doing a B flat major chord. 1, 2, 4, 5, 5, 5, 2. I recommend a finger 2 on that C. Okay, now pause the video and work on those 7 notes. Again, work on a beautiful legato sound. And remember, the last note of your phrase should be soft. One way to help with the softness is by floating the wrist up as you do that. Watch. Float up. And that helps that last note of the phrase have that gentle sound we want. Pause the video to work on those notes, then press play to go on. Then after that, in measure 6, we come up to this first ledger line of the treble staff, which is what? The top line of treble staff is flag F, but one ledger line above that is A, and we come down this scale. Da, 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 da. Finger 3 crosses over. So 6 notes stepping down. Dee, da, 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 da. And then we come here to this. Remember, we played this block chord, this C major chord, going to this F major chord. Okay? 5, 1, 2, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3. Team kita. We haven't seen a team key for a while. This dotted 8th, 16th, long, quick, long. So listen to that with the left hand. We're not playing the left hand today, but I want you to hear how it fits together. I'm going to start at this high A. So pause the video now and work on this section starting on that high A in measure 6 through the team kita in measure 8. Then press play to go on. Now let's look at what happens here in measure 9. We have these thirds. Finger 2 and 4 on this D and F. And remember, with repeating notes, you don't want that kind of staccato sound. You want a really smooth legato sound, which is tricky to do with repeating notes. You want to think of sinking into it and lingering on it as long as possible. Try this with me. See how smooth the sound you can get with these 3 repeating thirds. Listen to your sound. Think of just kind of sinking into those notes and sticking on them as long as possible. So the fingering is 2, 4, then 3, 1, then 2, 1. Then it goes up to finger 5 on G. Pause the video and work on those repeating thirds, making them as sticky, as smooth, as legato as you can. Then press play to go on. Then in measure 10, we come down to this G, 1, 2, then finger 1 again, so we don't run out of fingers. Ba, ba, up a 6. Then we've got all these sixths in a row. 1, 2, 3, 2, and 3. And why was I playing so slowly there? Look, it's a half note. But remember, inside a half note are 2 beats. And our beats now are filled with triplets. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and it's going to feel really, really slow there. Listen with the left hand. We have 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and notice how gentle I played that last note of the phrase. Now your turn. Work on measure 10 all the way to the end of measure 12. Remember to go super slow on those last 2 sixths, counting 1 and 2 and 3 and so you hold it long enough, then press play to go on. Now let's listen to the entire A section, which is from measure 1 all the way to measure 12. How did I know that measure 12 was the end of the A section? Well, you could hear that the music comes to rest here, right? And we call that a cadence. When we have this kind of final cadence, we know we're at the end of a section. So, I'd like to demonstrate this entire A section. Today, you are just working on the right hand. I'll show you both hands so you hear how it's going to fit together. Great work learning the right hand part for the A section of the second movement of this Clementi Sonatina. Thanks for learning with me and happy practicing. Today, let's review some things about piano posture, and I've got Monkey here to help me. So, Monkey, should students play with flat fingers? Should students play with relaxed curved fingers? What's that, Monkey? You'd like to try something a little harder? Well, I don't know. The students watching have gotten pretty advanced. They know really advanced things that you might not know, like trills. What? You know how to play a trill? That's great, Monkey. I didn't know you were paying attention so well to the lessons. What about how to make a beautiful phrase ending? Should I play the last note of the phrase loud or soft? Beautiful. That was just like the tip of a soft serve ice cream cone. What's that? You want to go get some soft serve ice cream now? Well, I guess we've done enough filming for today. Let's go grab some ice cream. Sure, we can invite Scuba, Chef, and Princess too. Right, we won't forget baby. Come on. This is a happy day for me too, Monkey.